Hello, and welcome to Say Lavi. I'm Lavi Peñaverde, and it's good to have you in a space for smarter living in a changing world. Nobody tells you this when you're younger. Sometimes, the life you work hardest to build slowly becomes the life you start outgrowing. Not because it was wrong, not because you failed. In fact, it may have been exactly what you needed for that season in your life. But seasons change, and people do too. The difficult part of growth is that it doesn't always arrive as excitement. Sometimes it arrives as restlessness, as a quiet feeling that something no longer fits the way it used to. At first, it's easy to dismiss. You tell yourself you're just tired, just stressed, just going through a phase. So you keep going. The expectations, the routines, the responsibilities, the life you've spent years building. But the feeling doesn't leave. It keeps returning, not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to make you wonder, why doesn't this feel the same anymore? Perhaps that's the wrong question, because the question may not be, what's wrong with my life? The question should be, who am I becoming now? One of the hardest things in adulthood is accepting that some chapters have an expiration date. Not because they failed, but because they fulfilled their purpose. There are seasons that teach us discipline, seasons that teach us survival, seasons that teach us ambition, seasons that teach us success. And then one day, you realize that you've learned what that chapter came to teach. Yet, many of us keep trying to stay long after we've stopped growing there, because leaving a chapter feels like an emotional betrayal. But growth is not betrayal. Growth is growth. The discomfort comes from living between versions of yourself. Part of you still remembers who you were. Part of you can already feel who you're becoming. And those two versions don't always want the same things. That's why this season can feel confusing. You haven't fully let go of the old chapter, yet you haven't fully stepped into the new one either. You're standing in between, and standing in between can feel lonely, because on the upside, your life looks exactly the same, but internally, everything feels different. This season may not be asking you to make a dramatic decision. It may not be asking you to reinvent your life overnight. This season may simply be asking you to tell yourself the truth. The truth about what feels alive. The truth about what feels heavy. The truth about what no longer reflects who you're becoming. Awareness often arrives before clarity, before the answers, before the plan, before the next chapter. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is to acknowledge what you already know. The life you're living today may have been exactly what you needed. It may have protected you, guided you, shaped you. Not every chapter is meant to become a permanent address. Some chapters are meant to prepare you for the next one. And perhaps this is what this season is all about. Not abandoning your life, not starting over, simply acknowledging you've changed and allowing yourself to grow accordingly. If this reflection resonated with you, subscribe and journey with me here. Every week, we pause together and make sense of the quiet changes happening inside us in a changing world. This is Say Lavi. See you in the next episode.